Our spot is why we are redeemed versus the tradition of men. So as we come together today, just knowing that we have been redeemed by Yeshua, it is an awesome thing to be here. And I just want to share how this morning we had men's prayer breakfast. And one of the things we were talking about as men is what are the things that we could do as leaders of our home. And we know iron sharpens iron. One of the things you don't see is you don't see gold sharpening iron. You don't see silver sharpening iron. But you see two metals sharpening each other. So as iron sharpens irons, we know sometimes that, men could iron men. And we're thankful that the Father has blessed us with, our wives or those who are in our lives that help support. But it's also a wonderful thing to also have, other men to help us, navigate this life, as we know that when Yeshua came, he spoke to his disciples and he spoke to them in such a way to equip them so that as we are here on earth and we interact with each other, there's things that we could really do to support one another as we are journeying this life. And I'm excited about our message today, talking about different traditions. But let me share with you 5 announcements that we have for today. First one is today is the 7th day in our Omer count towards Shavuot. So this is day 7. How do we feel about that? All right, I heard one woo. Can I get another woo? Today's day 7. What is significant about the number 7? Completeness. So, not only are we in the 7th day, it's the 7th day of our Omer counting, and it's towards Shavuot, and we know what Shavuot is about. All right, so I've already spoken about the men's prayer breakfast. Also, like to mention that Hope Life Center had its dessert fundraiser last week, and we're happy to support them, and we're thankful, for the work that they are doing for the community. But we would like to ask for support so if it's in your heart to donate, if you would please drop it in the tithes and offering box in the back, we'll make sure that they receive it. So they are doing, again, fabulous work for the community, and the ministry really enjoy what they're doing. So if we could support them, please do so. Wednesday night is New Moon. We'll be getting together at 8 p.m. and sunset on that day will be 8:05. So we would love to see you there if you could be here. And then also we had, we need a couple of volunteers through next week. We're going to do some cleaning in the assembly, and we need some volunteers to help vacuum and shampoo the lovely chairs that we're blessed to sit on every time we have an awesome service. So we would ask for some volunteers to help vacuum and shampoo the chairs within the sanctuary. So if you're interested, and if it's been laid on your heart, please see Dwayne and let him know, and he'll, point you in the right direction as far as when that will take place. Then also youth. Today is the Pulse Youth Meeting at 4:30. So by a show of hands, how many youth do we have here today? All right. So I know the youth should be excited because it looked like we have more youth than adults. So, all right, youth. So 4:30 today. And then, unlike last week or earlier this week, where I knew I was forgetting something. I couldn't figure out what I was forgetting. But it was the most important part. And that is for us to be able to greet one another and show the love, especially now that the Father has blessed us with another week to be with each other. So let's do the assembly greeting and, tell someone, hello, and, share something good that the Father did for you this week.
lost and far away, drifting like a ship without a sail. When I was still your enemy, that's when grace came. That's when grace came, running after me.
And I was going my own way, running from my home like a prodigal. No, still I see you run to me. See, that's when grace came.
That's when grace came.
That's when grace came. Come on. That's when grace came running, running. Grace came running after me. Grace just like a river washing over me.
Caught in a love I can't explain. Each and every day when I rise and fall.
No, I'm carried all the way. Grace keeps running.
Grace keeps running.
Grace keeps running. Grace just keeps on running, running. Grace keeps running after me. Grace keeps running after me. Like goodness and mercy. Grace just like a river washing over me. That's when grace came running, running. Grace came running after me.
It won't stop running. Won't stop running.
Grace just like a river washing over me.
Everybody say, "Why-yo!" Why-yo! Why-yo! Why-yo-yo-yo! Why-yo! Why-yo-yo! Why-yo!
All right, brothers and sisters,
If it seems to
if we could go ahead and make our way back to our seats, getting ready to transition to the point where that we set our hearts and mind to hear, an awesome message that we're going to hear today of what the Father put on the heart of our pastor. So, how many of you believe that our Father is good? What about all this craziness that's going on, in the world? This world that we live in will have us looking at the clouds. And just as when Peter, bid Yeshua to have faith to step on that water, he had the initial faith to do so. But as soon as he realized the reality of that storm, for us, it's like a story, but walking on water, and this is your first time, and all of a sudden you see this, and now you have no choice but to cry out for dear life. Because, if you don't cry for dear life, there's only one option. It's to sink. And a lot of times we find ourselves in that position. But though we're blessed that to be part of the body, where even though we live in a world like that, we could hear these messages that really encourage us. And right now, we're going to have the wrap-up from Abby that's going to remind us of some of the messages that we've heard up until this point. So without any further ado, we have a special video.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Say Wrap Up, where we talked about things that we did and things that we learned here at Shalom Assembly of Yahweh over the past month. Today marks the final wrap up for our April theme, The Time Is Now. And we did so much this month, we might as well just get into it. To kick off our first week of April, Pastor Dwayne gave a message titled, Time Matters. And you matter too. But for real, time matters, because when we understand that our time is limited, it helps us to remember that every choice that we make holds significance. That's why Dwayne emphasized that we should remember to take a time inventory every once in a while. Because after all, we manage ourselves within time. We don't manage time. In the second week of April, we had our lovely youth service, and in it, we had 3 great messages, all given by Aiden, James, and Adam. The first message was given by Aiden, and it was titled, Embrace the Time You Have. One quote that I really enjoyed was, Stop worrying about yesterday. Worry about today. Be wise with your time. Focusing on the present instead of dwelling on the past is always going to be the better option. Or in other words, do not let yesterday use too much of today. The second message was given from James, and it was titled, Stepping Up. In it, he asked the question, what are ways that we can step up? Because sometimes we want to step up, but there are things that are holding us back. And some of those things are fleshly wants, comfort zone, ourselves, giving up, or the past. Or maybe it's not just one, but it's a mixture of all of those. Either way, it's our job to identify the things that are holding us back, then let Yahweh into those areas. That way, we can step up and go all in. The third message was given by Adam, and it was titled, Following the Father's Voice. He brought us the story of Jonah and how we can learn from his mistakes. Jonah followed the voice of fear instead of learning to trust the voice of the Father. One way he said we can emphasize the voice of Yahweh is when we actively work to minimize the voice of distractions. In the third week, Brother Robert Castillo delivered a great message titled, What Are We Waiting For? Robert shared with us a lot about what he had to overcome to go to Africa, but that he felt like if he gave into his fear, that he would be going against what he knew Yahweh had planned for him. It's crazy how sometimes we can only view things from one perspective and not really understand fully how one decision can impact our whole future. He said, Why are you letting the adversary convince you that he's greater than the one that created you? If you don't rise up and start making or correcting the path you have started down, then you won't be able to make a better path for those that will follow. In the fourth week of April, we started celebrating the feast, which included Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The theme was Emet, the truth will set you free. And instead of hearing it from me, let's take a look and see what you guys had to say about it. What's your biggest takeaway from this year's feast?
To draw closer to Yahweh and Yahshua because they are the source of all truth.
I'd say my biggest takeaway from the feast would be that in the spirit of truth, in every decision we make, there's 2 routes we can go. We can go the route of the world, or we can go the route of the Word. And if we do everything with the mindset of going from the Word first, like, we're not going to stumble, you know? So that's my biggest takeaway from the feast this year.
I'd say my greatest takeaway from this year's feast is that we all need revival, and unleavened bread time is a time where we can search ourselves and really see what's come to the top and what we need to get rid of. It's all about removing those things that are distracting us, and we need more time with Yahweh so that we can know Him in spirit and in truth.
I loved feeling like we were stopped in time, like the camp was in its own little bubble, and so all the good things of worship and prayers and sharing and food and crafts, just the laughter of the kids, so many things, but it just felt so special being together. It was intimate, and it really has been a reviving time for the season in my life that I'm in.
What's your favorite thing about Feast?
Let's see. Probably the dancing. Or like the bonfires that we've been having. And yeah.
The ping pong table. Probably all of the games and just hanging out with friends.
So my favorite thing about Feast is probably the messages. We've had some really, really good messages, especially Steve's. Oh my gosh, and I gotta say also like a lot of the games that we've been playing, like I just really like how everyone's being very inclusive to the like newer people, I would say, or people who aren't exactly like here but are joining us. So that's been probably my favorite part, and also the food.
Bouncy houses. We celebrate Yahweh and we read about books about Yahweh. The bounty house and playing the game.
What's your favorite thing about this year's feast? And during the feast on that Saturday, we had Brother Steve Deneve give a message, and it was titled, The Kingdom of Truth. In it, he talked about how we really need to step away from our Western thinking. He presented and compared two different decision-making processes, the world and the Word. The world wants us to always base our decisions off of emotions and feelings, whereas the Word tells us that we cannot be ruled by feelings because they can hold us back or blind us from reality. The Word can give us a kingdom mindset that will help us make necessary decisions for our lives. And I think Steve said it best. When you don't have to think about it, it just becomes a part of you. That's how you win the fight. And that's how you transition from a student to a master of Shema food. Overall, it was a great time, and we know that Yahweh has some great things coming up for this year. So to give us one big takeaway from everything that happened over the past month is Pastor Dwayne.
Hey everybody, I just want to let you know I am so excited to be on one of Abby's videos. I've been dreaming of this all my life, and there's only one thing I really want to do. You know how when Abby just looks at you, it's so cool? Let me try. Okay, now back to the major takeaways from this month. You know, we've been talking about now is the time. We've been at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, this is the time that Yahweh appointed us to come out to do the Passover, to eat the unleavened bread, and to just spend our time thinking and just remembering what Yahweh's done through Yahshua for our lives. And if there's one takeaway that I would say over the whole now is the time theme to the Feast of Unleavened Bread through what we've done, if Yahweh has put something in your heart to do, now is the time to do it. But don't just do it. Do it with all your heart. If you need to find something out, if you need to organize something, if you need to start something, if you want to go to school, if there's something that Yahweh is directing you, or there's some purpose that you think He's called you to do and you're just like not doing it, now is the time to step into that and just do it. So my one little takeaway for all of that is that we've all been called, do what you're called to do, and today is the day to start doing it. Yahweh bless you so much, and I thank Abby for all of her help.
So a big thanks to our leaders for their sermons, and a big thanks to everyone who appeared in this video. As we start our new theme for the month of May, Healthy Traditions, I think it's safe to say that April has been officially wrapped.
You know, I love the videos that Abby makes, but I'll tell you, I have one question though. If that was the real Richie, all this time, have we been seeing the fake Richie? You know, that's suspect. Even the person sus. I'm gonna use the Gen Z word. That was sus. All right, so you know, I'm gonna echo what Pastor Dwayne stated. Pastor Dwayne said you cannot manage time, but you have to manage yourself. So I'm going to manage myself in time, but not staying up here before you too much longer, because I know you're excited to hear the message that we're going to hear today from our very own pastor. And as Abby stated, it's family traditions. You know, what are some of the traditions as families that we have that we are aware of, or we might not be so aware of? But let's hear from Pastor Dwayne, who's going to talk to us about these traditions. Let's welcome our pastor, and let's give him a round of applause.
All right. Shabbat shalom, everybody. How you guys doing? How many of you came in this morning or this afternoon, whenever you showed up and got in here and said, oh, wow, something's different about the room? How many of you didn't really know where to sit? We're trying to change it up, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to be a little uncomfortable, and we got to go through new things. So this is one way of doing that. And you know, I would say too that when I was at the feast, one of the reasons that we changed the chair layout was when I was up here talking, I was walking, and I was like, I got to walk from this side to this side to really look at people. So hey, you know, now you're right here. We can look a little bit easier. Maybe I won't do so much walking, but at the same time, it's always good to do new things. Get out of your comfort zone. That was a big takeaway from the feast, right? Make sure that whatever your calling is, you're not being limited by that. All right? Healthy traditions. You guys excited about this? Yeah? Really excited? Man, how many of you are just excited to be alive because Yahweh's doing work on the earth? All right, good. I'm glad to hear that. Healthy traditions. You know, traditions get a bad rap in the scripture. Really, and a lot of people walk away from the scripture with traditions, and they think to myself, "Oh, I can't walk in traditions of men." Is that true? What's that? Is it true that they say that? That we can't walk in traditions of men? That's what people say. Is it true? Is it true that they say that? Okay, so it's true that they say that. Is it true that they say that? It is, according to Erica. I'm not even sure what we're talking about anymore. Is it truth or tradition that we're following here? All right. And how many of you have ever seen that the one video by Jim Staley, Truth or Tradition? How many of you have seen that? Yeah, that was a huge hit with a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of people that was their initiation into starting to shake up in their life about, am I walking in truth or am I walking in tradition? Right? And they began to ask themselves, oh, are some of the things in the biggest what I think are some of the biggest traditions in family, which is an amazing thing. I mean, we need some really healthy family traditions, do we not? Yes? We're going to ask that question a little bit today, so I want it to be more interactive as we talk through some things. But there are times when, and as the video that he had pointed out, that the traditions that we've adopted that seem so close at the heart of our faith are not even the things that Yahweh desires of us. And all of a sudden, the reason that video was such a success, and I thought it was really well done, is that the challenge was there. Are you really seeking for truth, or are you just doing it how your fathers have done it before, and that's okay? And the big question out there, does Yahweh sign off or approve of those traditions that you're doing? And I believe the shakeup for that video for a lot of people is that they started evaluating what they thought was a truth-invested tradition, only to realize that it wasn't really something planted in Yahweh's word. So then they have this chaos now of trying to discern the truth from tradition. And Yahshua spent a lot of his time talking about the traditions of men, and it's a very negative connotation, because specifically what he said about that, though, is that you ignore the what? You could ignore the commandments of Yahweh, but you spend a lot of time on the traditions of men, or the traditions of your fathers, who are not working a righteous path, although that looks like it. And that's the hardest part of all of it, is that when you see a lot of people in what we consider to be our Christian Judeo ethic of faith, when we look around and we say, okay, well, all of these things that we're holding is coming from a book, and then we have to start discerning a reality of, okay, well, everything that looks like faith isn't faith. And that was one of the things that Yahshua was pointing out. He said, you look like a people of faith. You look like a person who's seeking the heart of the Father, but the truth is that you're ignoring the Father's commands. And if you ignore the Father's commands, you may as well be a dead man walking, because life is in the commands of Yahweh. Do you agree with that? How many know that song by somebody was asking me if I had a cowboy hat this morning. I thought that was a funny question, because I don't have a cowboy hat. I do want some cowboy boots, so if anybody wants to feel like a cowboy, they have to have cowboy boots. So I guess maybe that was a plug for me to get the boots. But I don't have a hat. But I am reminded of a country song. Maybe some of you have known it and heard it before, and it says, "I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. How many of you know that song? Now in this question, in this song, he asked some questions that people ask him. Are you familiar with that song? It says, Hank, why do you have to live those things out in your life? And he came back and he said, well, it's just a family tradition. And he blamed it on his family. Now, that song is so well known. I could probably go to almost any audience in the United States of America, and somebody could probably begin to sing that song for me that's in an audience, no matter where I would go. Because that song, it's saying a real truth, and people actually like that song. So I like the sound of that song, and I used to sing, and then I started thinking about it one day, like, what are we carrying on? Is that, and sometimes we don't make a decision of something based upon its moral value. We make a decision on something that we like, right? I don't care about the words of that song. I don't even pay attention to the words of that song. I just like the beat. I like the way it goes. I like the melody, right? And so we could be, in country music, you could be talking about my cheating heart. And if you say it nice enough, sweet enough with the right chord in there, everybody's going to love the cheating heart. Is that true? Yeah, we're drawn to the cheating heart. You put out a movie there and you got some dude that's really on the risque side of life, and everybody loves that guy as if he's got something going on because he can get the girl, right? And we like that feeling of seeing somebody accomplished, and yet sometimes we're not making like a moral value. We're just liking a character. We're liking somebody out there. And I believe in this whole realm of traditions, that's where we can go really easy. We can actually be drawn in to like the wrong thing because we haven't seen the real truth of things. And in your life and in my life, we have to discern and decipher between what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. And we get to this message today called Family Traditions. And I'd like to just cast out this song that we're just carrying on an old family tradition. And I'd like to bring a new light to what a family tradition should look like and what it should be like. All right. And last month, our theme was talking about time, because time matters a lot. And as Abby was given in the wrap up there from some of the messages that we had, and she gave the little schedule that had from the week, that when I was talking about inventorying your time and saying, okay, well, what's the important things in life? And today I kind of want to reiterate that a little bit. But let's go over to, let me open up all this stuff here. Let's go over to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9 first. First up, 2 Corinthians chapter 9. And we were talking about, is it worth it? I think that's what Silborn asked as he was introducing the service today. He was asking if, I'm trying to do two things at once. That's not working real well. He was asking if because it looks a little dark in the world, what should we do? Should we just kind of panic and give up on things? And I think that if I were to give any motivation or any forward motion to this message, it would be that the light overcomes the darkness every time. There will never be a time where there's a dark spot and you shine a light in that dark spot. If that light comes on, the darkness flees. It's gone. Surefire way. If you want to go somewhere that's dark, bring yourself a flashlight. And the darker it gets, the more light blasts from the little bulb that you have in your hand. And in our families, I think that we have the families, when we address families, we're always addressing something about what's going wrong. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that in our society, if you listen to the current trend of society, no matter what medium you're getting that from, you're getting a negative, you're getting this connotation that the family is in distress and it's done. And you look around at it, there's no value in so many things that are going on in our society about families. But families that are healthy are shining lights all over the place. And there are a lot of them. Contrary to popular belief, there are a lot of people that are focused on the light so intently that they're moving with the light and they're moving with their family with the light. And their families are pretty tight. Are you with me? You believe that? Do you believe that the path that Yahweh has laid out for us, that we can gain victory in ourselves and in our families? All right, so sometimes we're looking at the darkness and we're thinking the darkness is prevailing, but that is a lie and myth of the devil. And if you believe that, then I want you to start believing some different things about yourself and about Yeshua. Because the light that came to this world overcame this world. And he told us that because he overcame the world, that we could overcome the world too. So no matter where you are in your family right now, I want you to know, declared by the mouth of Yeshua HaMashiach, that you can have victory in your family. You can have victory with your children. You can have victory with your wife. You can have victory with your husband. You can have victory in your family, and the family can be reestablished in a way that's walking toward the light, so much so that we leave the darkness behind. That sounds like a fairy tale. You know, at Hope Life Center, we were at the banquet this week. You know what their vision is that a woman would not even think of choosing abortion. The ministry is the calling. The goal, the vision for this ministry is to see that no woman wants to even choose abortion for their child, for their future, right? Thereby saving generations. That seems like a pretty audacious goal, isn't it? I'm telling you, I love that. You know why? Because they're getting after it. They're doing what they're called to do, and they believe that. And because they believe that, they're walking a different way. When they talk to a woman that's in trouble, they're talking a different way. And I'm saying to you that the way that you talk is the way that you feel in your heart, and the way that you feel in your heart is going to come through in your actions and your words and your speech. And our words and our speech need to be seasoned with the light. Are you feeling that? I mean, seasoned with light. Seasoned with light so much that the darkness doesn't come out when you talk. You think that's possible? Let's reach up. Let's move it up. The light is moving on this earth, stepping into, like Yahweh is moving. Yahweh's waiting for his people. When Moses was down there about to get ready to go to the sea, Yahweh said, what are you waiting for? Move forward. Well, the Egyptians are back here. The sea is here. I can see him, and I can feel his plot and pain. I can feel it because I don't know if I'd have been jumping up at the sea at that moment. But here's the thing. We have seen Yahweh open the sea. We have heard Yahweh deliver his people. We have heard him give the words and the commands that say, if you do this, you'll be blessed. And if you don't do this, there's a curse that'll come and follow you. And what we do is we take the word, and I just like to say this morning I woke up. And I don't often talk about dreams or different things like that. But when I opened my eyes this morning, a little something planted in my mind that said, Dwayne, the secret of life, the secrets that you need in your life are right here. And I was like, the secret that I need for my life is in the Word. Okay, that's good. I know that. But it was like the pressing of that whole thing as my mind started thinking about the secret of life is in the Word. Okay, if I'm going to find the secrets, then I need to get in the Word looking for secrets for my life. And again, I don't often say about dreams and things. I definitely don't want to stand up. I'm very careful when I say Yahweh told me, or Yahweh told me to deliver something to you. But this morning, it was so much on my mind when I woke up that he said the secrets in the Word. And that means that you have to be in the Word. And in the Word, it declares certain things. And if you believe the Word fully, then I'm going to tell you, doubt is going to start pushing its way out. And light is going to begin to come into your path. And when you're fully committed, if we could be fully committed to seeking the Word over seeking everything else around us for our families, we're going to move a lot better. Let's go over to 2 Corinthians chapter 9. Chapter 9, we're going to start in verse 5. Let's go back a little bit. Let's just start at verse 1. For it is superfluous for me to write to you about this ministry to the saints, for I know your readiness, of which I boast about you to the Macedonians, namely that Achaia has been prepared since last year. Your zeal has stirred up most of them. But I have sent the brethren that our boasting about you may not be made empty in this case, that I was saying you may be prepared, lest if any of the Macedonians come with me and find you unprepared, we we should be put to shame by this confidence. So I thought it necessary to urge you, brethren, that you would go ahead and arrange beforehand your previously promised bountiful gift, that the same might be ready as a bountiful gift and not affected by covetousness. Now this I say, he who sows sparingly shall reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully shall also reap bountifully. Let each of you do just as he has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for Yahweh loves a cheerful giver. And Elohim, who is able to make all grace abound to you, I want you to put yourself right in there, that same Elohim who Paul was talking to in Corinth, and he was telling them that this Elohim is able to make grace abound to you. Who's able to do what? Yahweh is able to make all of this grace abound, big. It comes in a big measure. It's poured out. It's pushing. And who is it to? It's to you. It's to each one of you. Yahweh's doing that all the time. And he says that always having all sufficiency in everything, you may have an abundance for every good deed. It is written, he scattered abroad, he gave to the poor, his righteousness abides forever. Now he who supplies the seed to the sower and the bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in everything from all liberality, which through us is producing thanksgiving to Yahweh. Now, that promise is for you and me. And that promise is a great promise. All right? So I want to go back just a little bit. I want to take a couple of steps back. Last week we talked about time. And we talked about what we're going to do with our time and how we manage ourselves around time, because time is moving. Okay? And this is like a really important thing. If you go back in our country, let's say you go back 200 years. If you go back 200 years, what do you find? Crying babies? Of course. They're all times. Hallelujah. We love those babies. We love to hear them cry. That means life is in the room, right? That means that mom and dad's got to do their job, and that's exactly what we're talking about right up in the thick of things right here today. Y'all feeling it? Y'all in the thick with me? Because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that Yahweh's good. He's got some blessings coming if we will be really with him and move with him. And I believe that we can restore marriages to where they're working and functioning in a way that's amazing before the Father. And I believe that we can restore our family with children who have gone out, who have been lost, who have been whatever, for whatever reason. I believe that all those reasons does not matter. I believe that Yahweh can call and we can go back and seek, and through a message of reconciliation that Yahweh places in our heart, through seeds that he's already planted in us, when we activate that, we can overcome so many things in this world. And I believe that. Do you believe that? Because if you believe that, then you're going to live a different way than you're normally living. Do you believe that Yahweh has all sufficiency to give you everything you need to be equipped to whatever he calls you to do? Does that mean the whole world's going to be fixed? Nope. Does it mean you're not going to have any problems? Nope. You're going to have plenty of them. Hallelujah. Yahweh bless you because he's given you the strength to overcome them already in Yahshua's name. Are you with me? This life is never meant to be easy, folks, but it was meant to be taken by the people that believe in Yahweh. And if you believe in your heart, so many things move. I believe that word that I received this morning very strongly. I believe that when Yahweh said there are secrets in this word for me, I believe that I need to get in the word and find those secrets. I don't really know exactly what it is yet, to be honest with you, but I know the word. I believe the word. I believe that this is the principle that we live our life by. And I believe when we take this word in, we can take it in one of two ways. We can kind of take it in casually and think about everybody else, or we can take it in casually and say we believe but don't really believe it, or we can realize that this is the life of a person through the word that Yahweh, that's living and active and sharper than any two-edged sword that's able to do that. And I believe that when you meditate and you ruminate, or like we have cows that chew a cud, when they take it, they eat it one time, they got like 5 stomachs or something crazy. 4 stomachs. I'll tell you the story about my nephew and the cows one time when he was examining the stomach and it didn't go so well. That's another story, another day. But they take that food in there, and one time's not good enough. It goes down, and it comes back up, and they put it in their little cud. Y'all know what a cud is? Oh, it's disgusting, ain't it? When you chew that grass up there, then you kind of, bring it back up from the stomach. That doesn't sound good. And then you just put it over there on the side of your cheek, and you let it ruminate there for a while, and it gets to smelling so good, I'm sure, right? Gets mixed with all that saliva. But you know what all that's doing? All that whole process right there is it's changing everything about it so that when it gets into the body, it's working for the good of the cow. Yeah, we could have made cows just to eat and go down, but he made a distinction between those that chew the cud. Those are clean, and they have a hoof. And in our eyes, we see a lens of the world of clean and unclean through this whole thing of this cow eating grass, bringing it back up, chewing it again, ruminating on it a little bit more, taking it down. It goes to one stomach. One stomach's not enough. It's got to go to another stomach. Two stomachs not enough. It's got to go to a third stomach. Three stomachs not enough. It's got to go to the fourth one. I don't really know anything about any of that process, but I do know that's a lot of ruminating. And I find that in my life, when I'm ruminating like that, usually it's over something bad that somebody did to me. And I'm going to stew and ruminate on that bad memory or that bad event or that bad thing that somebody's placed in my life. And my propensity inside of me is not to be the guy that receives seeds from Yahweh. My propensity in life usually is to look out there and say, somebody did something unfair to me, and I'm pretty mad about it. Do I have any kindred spirits in here? Yeah, why is it that sometimes, most of the time, so many times, when we're ruminating over something, it's something negative. When we're ruminating over something, it's like, they ask me, Hank, why do you drink? Why do you do all these other things that we know are the marks of vices that are not good? Well, it's just because that's the way I am. It's a family tradition. That's the way that I was born. That's a place I was born into. Well, I don't really care where you were born into, but today's the day, or your life is not represented always by where you come from. The most 7 deadly words on the earth that my mom thinks is, we have always done it that way. And she counts just like that. Make sure she's still at 7. We don't want to add a word or take away. It's 7, right? We have always done it that way. Well, I'm telling you, chasing the light, it's time to do some different things in our life. And our rumination doesn't need to be over the bad things that have happened in our life. Our rumination and our light is turned on when we remember the good things that Yahweh has done and that Yahweh will do in our life. And in your home, how old are you, Phoebe? How old? 18. Oh, I love that. I knew she was 18. I just wanted her to say it out loud. I like to hear people's voice, right? Is that good? Abby, how old are you? 25. Silvermore, how old are you? Whew. Don't answer if you don't want to. I'm trying to not ask the older ladies, but if y'all want to raise your hand, I'll ask you. How old are you? 49, almost a decade. I mean, yeah, half a century. But what's that? Isn't it a octagon or something? I don't know what it is. I know oct is as 10, right? Am I right? Oct is, oh, you guys are sharp. I'm glad y'all. Yeah, what's 10? Decade. Yeah, penta. There you go. Oh, Shavuot. Yeah, the count, 50 days, 50 years, whatever it is. He's almost a Shavuot in days, in years, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. He's a jubilee, almost a jubilee. Man, that's a long time on this one subject. Walt, thanks for telling us that. You got us, that's a distraction now. No, just kidding. That's all good. It's all good. Walt, do you like being in your family? Do I like being? Yes. I do too. I love being in my family. All right, let's see here. Derek, how old are you, brother? 41. All right, that's cool. 41. Boy, somebody put you on a thought like that. You like being in your family? Whew, that's tough, isn't it? Steve, do you like being in your family? How old are you, man? I'm 54. All right. How old am I? Whoo, 39 and counting. Yeah. I'm 54. 54 years. Took a long time to get this way. Long time. I had to ruminate. You know, here's the thing, though. It doesn't make any difference how old you are in your family. And I want it to be like a young, old. You have work to do in your family. You know what I'm saying? Right? You have work to do in your family. This is not a parents got to do all the work. Jayla, do you think you have work to do in your family? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for putting you on the spot. Will you forgive me? Okay. Do you think you have work to do in your family? Yeah. Yeah. Aiden, where's Aiden? Oh, he's sitting back there. Aiden, you think you have work to do in your family, brother? Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. Full enthusiasm. Come on now, let's applaud that effort right there. Because next week we're going to hear testimony from Robert and Katie about how that boy's changed up in his house. Am I telling you? Yeah, you hear that enthusiasm? That's about to bubble into actions. He's about to go out and get the groceries. He's about to mow the lawn. I mean, I can feel good things happening. Can you guys feel it? Brother, I put all that on you. This week you're charged with making a difference in your family. I love that full enthusiasm. Let's move it. Listen, go back into the scripture, and I want to tell you one of the things that's so important. If you go back in our country like 200 years, our lives were completely different than they are today. Most everybody would have been around their family so much more than we are today. We would have had so much time. As a matter of fact, you would have probably got up in the morning really early in a house that wasn't nearly as impressive as most of the houses that we have now. You would have probably by, 8 o'clock in the morning, you probably already been out with some of the animals. You probably milked a cow, and your children were there carrying the buckets or carrying the hay or complaining that it was too cold or talking about, why do we have to do all this stuff and why do we have to be here together? But here's the deal. The family was together. Together. One of the things that happened to me as I was going along is I was a speaker at the old assembly. I was a youth guy at the old assembly. I was part of the music at the old assembly. I had a lot of these things, and some of my kids were there with me. And all of a sudden, I woke up one day and I think, you're just getting too much of me in every department. So you need to just go. We need to do something different because I'm telling you, and we're not getting along here. We're not getting along here. We're not getting along here. We got like 7 places where we're really invested. Right? I think maybe you need to get some other people so that you can get some, and like that's how our life is. But back in the day, that's the way it was every day. You went to probably a little school, country school somewhere, and everybody knew everybody. And if you got whooped at the school, you got whooped at home because everybody was pretty much in alignment that you needed to get whooped. That's the way I felt at one time. I mean, it was so strong. Sometimes down there was one kid that came into my cousin's class, Sunday school class, and every week it seemed like he was going out and giving this little kid a spanking because he'd do something in class. And one morning he just walked in there and Ken said, hey, let's go. And he said, where are we going? He said, we're going over there to get the business done. He said, I didn't even do anything. He said, I know, but if I do that, then you'll be fine all the rest of the class. Because sometimes we just know that there's needs. But my point is that 200 years ago, our lives in a family would have looked completely different than they do right now. That's a mixed bag. Because some people would have liked that a lot, and some people wouldn't like that a lot. But here's what I do know about that time, is in our country, people were in their family. They were secluded away from most of the outside world unless some news came in that was really relevant to our lives. And usually it was only a few people in the town that would have got that news. So you would have only been able to keep up with so many things going on, all this craziness out here, all these voices, all these distractions, all these things. You would have really been worried about the daily needs. And you would have really been in tune if you grew up on a farm having to carve your way out, that everybody in the family was necessary to make this thing work. And everybody's contribution was really important so that things could move in a certain way. And there you were around your family enough to establish, if a family was working righteously, you would have been able to establish some really good family traditions. Things that we just do. When we're out here, we sing. And some of those traditions are like really good. Like we sing together when we're doing something hard because that helps us stay together. And there are probably some other traditions. I don't even know. There was probably the way that they would clean an animal together. There were probably traditions between fathers and sons about how they would go out and shoot something and bring it home so that they could have something to eat. And they probably in there, they developed some really good things that drew their hearts together. Now, Satan's been working all time trying to get the family unit torn apart. And it seems like in our culture, he's doing a pretty good job. Because we are so busy with so many things that are not important. We spend our time on screens. And sometimes our screens are right here. And there's somebody in our family right there. And we text them. Like sometimes our screens are that we're at the best part of the movie. So we don't have time for a crisis that our child is going through. And if it's not a screen, then maybe it's that we're doing something that we think is really important with our job or our work, and all of a sudden we wake up one day and so much time has passed by and we realize that we missed the value of some age for our children. Or we miss the value of spending time and listening with our wife so that we can be together and move on the same page. Or we miss some valuable thing about our own self that we haven't been working on because we've had so many places to go. We don't have time to think about, am I really doing good? It's stress, it's pressure, it's all of these things, and we're moving everywhere. And now it seems like that people have lost their desire for the amount of time it takes at home. Because it's going to take a lot of time at home if you're going to do a good job with your family. And the word declares that. The word talks about that. And that's hard because here's the deal. If you're really going to step into blessing in your family, you're going to have to step into your family and be there. And some of these other things are going to have to move aside. And if you don't move those things aside, the reality is that something else is taking your time. And you're developing something somewhere. What is that thing? And I would say that there's been many a person that's come to the end of their life and they lay there with only a few days or months to live and they have time to think. And the one thing they usually say is, I wish I'd have spent more time with my family. Wish I would have really helped one of my young children get through something. I feel like a failure right now because I didn't do that basic calling. But we built a great business. But the business being great at the end doesn't seem to be very satisfactory, or I've got it wrong on all the people that I've heard talking to people at the end of their life. And so when we talk about priorities and schedule, and I read this word here, I just want to go back and just make a couple of points about this word. In Corinthians, he said, he who sows sparingly shall reap what? Greatly. Sometimes we think that we can sow something quality, and if we sow it quality, i.e. not a lot of time, we're going to reap quality and an abundance. Do you think that's true? How many of you wake up every morning, walk out and just bless your garden and go on to work and expect there's going to be a crop there? You wake up every morning, you walk out there and you look at those, oh, so beautiful. I love all these little plants. Yeah, I would bless you all today. Now, they ain't saying anything, but if you walk away from that garden, pretty soon those plants are going to start saying, I need some water, because they're going to start looking yellow. And yellow in a green plant is not good. Brown, dried up leaves in a plant is not good. But you gave them a blessing every day. Well, that's a blessing is a spoken word. Here's what I'm telling you, is that our families don't need a spoken word. They do need a spoken word, but they need somebody to be right there in presence. They need somebody to be walking in alignment with the Father. I heard something that was so good. I shared it this morning with the men, and I want to share it with you. And I know that we have a lot of people online today, and I just want this to resonate with us, okay? This guy said that one of his observations is that, Eve was not Adam's first companion, his first relationship. When Adam was formed and created, he was put in the garden, and his first relationship was intimacy in the presence of Yahweh. I thought, man, that's really good. That's really good. And if you're a man, then I just want you to know that the best way that you could bless your family is to find a very strong connection in the presence of Yahweh and let that connection in the presence of Yahweh direct your paths on what you need to do for your life. Because truth is, maybe something that you're doing is taking way too much of your time and you're neglecting some other things around there. But the presence of Yahweh, like again, I don't talk about it very often, but this morning I felt like Yahweh put a strong word on my heart. And that was that the secrets come from here. The secrets to life, my word has the secrets for your life. And I believe that my time is most valuable. Like right now, I'm very highly aware that my time is most valuable in looking and seeing, hey, what's in this word that I need personally? Maybe that needs to change the trajectory of something in my life. Maybe the presence of Yahweh would bring me to an understanding that this got to go, this got to go. And then if I get rid of those things that are keeping my relationship from him moving forward, I can assure you that that will translate into you being the best in front of the people around you. Because your children, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, your children need integrity in you. They need you to be, and the only place you find out where integrity is in the word of Yahweh. Now you can find it in a lot of different places, but this is the source of where that is. They need to see a good example of someone who's leading them. They need to see someone who's trustworthy. They need to see someone who's being led by something greater than themselves. They're not just living for this moment, this day. They're living for something that's coming that's way more powerful. They're living for the knowing the day that comes is when Yahshua is going to look at them and he's going to judge every man according to their works and according to their integrity and according to the way that they were. And when I'm preaching that right now, I'm telling you, I'm feeling a lot of judgment on my life. Because I have not been that kind of man as much as I needed to be for my family. And if you would, just for a moment, let's just take time and recognize that through our weakness, Yahweh is made strong. Because maybe somebody's sitting out there thinking, Dwayne, you're a hypocrite in this and you're a hypocrite in that, and why are you up there teaching? Because you know you failed to follow through on so many things. I want to admit to you, I have failed to follow through on so many things. But the word of Yahweh still stands as a beacon of hope that we can change and that we can move forward in him. And there's no weakness that we have to stop the light from coming into our hearts. Because the light comes into the heart, the life is changed. You're right, it's difficult to maintain every day and to do and to live this standard. The standard's higher than me. It seems sometimes out of my reach when I look at things and think to myself, Dwayne, are you limiting your family because of your words? Dwayne, are you limiting the assembly because of the way that you're doing things? Is enough people involved or enough, and I have all these things in the back of my mind that I keep asking myself and evaluating. And you know what? The Father's like showing me through some things and he's saying, hey, Dwayne, you're not doing so great here. And I am okay to say to you that I am exactly who Yahweh made me to be. And I feel my weaknesses just like you should feel your weaknesses. But that being said, I also know the place that I've been put. And my first place is a father and a husband in my home. That's my first obligation in this life. Should be yours too. Your home is your first obligation. And you go there just like me. You have questions about, am I going to be enough to handle the problems that come with me and my children? Am I going to be enough to help these little plants grow up? Am I going to be enough to hear what my husband has to say? Am I going to be enough to be able to go through and help my wife in this area? Am I going to be enough just to be calm under pressure and able to handle these things and put out? And I'm telling you, yes, you are. Your capacity is always more than what we see in the flesh. You also have a capacity disconnected from Yahweh to move far away from your family. That's when crazy things happen. When you're not connected with the Father, crazy things can happen in your life. But when you're connected to the Father, all of your weakness can be resolved in Yahweh's strength. And it takes a heart that's dedicated and done. And when I'm talking about your home, I want you to just think, what am I really dedicated to in my home? Is it a place just to sleep and spend most of my time somewhere else? And I don't want you to give you an unrealistic message because I know many of you go to work a lot of hours. But when you're home, when you are home, what's the modus operandi then? That's the question. All right? And this is what I'm saying is, in this verse it says, if you are going to do something, he who sows sparingly shall also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully shall reap bountifully. And I want to just put that out there as a blessing on you for your family. If you go into your family bountifully, and you give your time bountifully, as much as you possibly can, and sit down and make a few decisions on who you want to be and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, in your home, if you decide, and I want to be clear, I am not talking to parents in this message. I'm talking to everyone that's in the hearing of my voice. In your home, who are you and how are you? And how are you building your house? Because if you want to reap from your relationships bountifully, you're going to have to sow in. So I'd ask Steve, brother, do you need your children to sow into your life? Yes. Do you need your children to sow into your life, Silborn? Yes. And Janiyah, do you need your parents to sow into your life? Like, it's really good when we feel like someone is sowing into our life. But here's the things that happen when somebody's sowing into our life, is that they're taking time with us. And it's on the increase, not on the decrease. It's on the, I value you, I want to be around you, I'm with you. And we're walking this thing together. And I'm showing you the greatness of Yahweh because I felt the greatness of Yahweh because I've been in the presence of Yahweh. And he's leading my heart. Man, that's good, isn't it? That just sounds really good. I value you and my family, and I value the presence of Yahweh in my life because I know that's the formula for blessing in my family. That's good to know. It's better to do. It's just like the scripture in James chapter 1 says, is it's great to hear, and blessing on the hearers, but, it's the doers. It's the one who hear it, and then they do it. And then they're excited about doing it. Not only am I leaving some of these other things out here behind, I want you to know that you're my valued, treasured person that's around me, whoever that is. You want to make the family members around you light up? Go to them this week and tell them all the good things. Try to remember as many good things about them as you can. And then tell them. You know, we have short memories. Well, sometimes we have short memories. But remembering the good, remembering like their youth and remembering, how it was good. And husbands and wives, sometimes you need to remember that spark that when you were sitting there and, y'all was sitting so tight and your hand was so close when you were dating that nobody could separate you. And now you kind of sit away from each other and you turn around. And I'm not talking about anybody specific. I'm just saying that's what we see a few years ago. And then that thing that was so attractive and so drawing in has now become like, I don't even know who you are if we're working together. That comes strictly because we forget the presence of Yahweh and we forget our calling. Because my Bible says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And that's how I try to always emulate Steve when he's in that. It's good. What's it, Tov? Yeah, it's Tov, good. It's good. Right? But the same thing that can be so good in the beginning, down the road can be so hard. But bring back the presence of Yahweh. Bring back the remembrance of those good things. Begin to restore the relationship. Man, that sounds good, doesn't it? It's hope. And I'm telling you, you're so important in that process. When you look out, it says, let each one of you, verse 7, let each one of you do as he has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion. Oh, I have to go to this thing for my family's sake. I have to. No, you don't have to. You get to. You get to go. You get to be a part of it. You get to be in their lives. You get to be invested. You get to love your family. You get to. Your heart is open for your family. I love you. I show you that because I give you the best of who I am. You get to, not under compulsion. You know what under compulsion is? Somebody walks in there at your work and they hate their own life, but they're the boss. They got put in charge. Somehow, mysteriously, this person rose to the top. Probably because they just said, I'll be here. And everybody else said, I won't. And now they're in charge of you. And they hate their job. They hate their life. And you're the one that's now going to be the focus of what they hate in life. Because they feel like they're going to lord something over you. And they're going to put you in your place because they don't have anything to do. They hate what they're doing. Right? That's kind of the way the Pharisees were. I'm not going to do it, but I'm telling you to do it. But I'm not going to show you that. I'm actually going to be a jerk, and I'm going to be very selfish, and I'm not going to listen to you, and I don't really care if you make it or not. But that's not the authority that Yahweh gave us. The authority that Yahweh gave us is that we should love wholeheartedly, that we should be applauding when people are moving up and doing good. We should be the cheerleaders behind everyone who wants to see their lives improve. Man, we're a small crowd today, but are you guys feeling this? Because Yahweh's good and his house is good. There's good rooms. He has room for every one of us. And he loves you personally. He loves you. He loves you so much. Of all the created things, what do you think the most valuable created thing that Yahweh gave was? The most valuable created thing. Yeshua. What's the second most valuable created thing that Yahweh put on this earth? What is it? Our spouse? What? If the first one is Yeshua, which I believe is his treasured, beloved son, the second is mankind. The most valuable creation that he has is you and I after Yeshua, his beloved son, whatever that relationship is and means. Are you with me? And his value on all of us, he loves you like no one else can love you. I can't even come to love my children the way that Yahweh loves my children. I don't even know if I can love my wife the way that Yahweh loves my wife. Because his love is pure. It's seeking good for me and my family. If I just walk this way, he'll walk with me. Even when I'm not faithful, he's still faithful to my family. That's what the word tells me. But I'm saying that when we're walking with him in his presence and we're feeling that, then our priorities are going to change. And we don't have to have a family tradition that says we're disconnected, not talking, not communicating, not listening, not moving together, not in alignment. That does not have to be our family tradition. Our family tradition can become, if we focus on it with all we have, and we, first priority, Father, give me insight into my house. Father, look down on what we're doing. What here needs to change? What do I need to change? Not what my wife needs to change, or not what my children need to change, but you. If just flip that around, whoever you are. If you're a wife, what do I need to change so that I can change the space in my home? So often we're looking for the other person to change, and I'm telling you, it's a losing fight. I want the other person to change, but it's you and I who need to change, because that's what we have most control over. When I read this word, it tells me whoever, doesn't give me a name, it doesn't give me a title, it says, whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly. Whoever sows bountifully will reap bountifully. So I have a question for you. How do you want to sow? Because I can assure you, what you can do, truly do within your control, is always better than who was supposed to do it. And that's not an enabling statement. I don't want you to do everything for everybody. That's enabling. When people can do something, they need to be held accountable. Let me just say about your children. I love them little boogers with all my heart. They need to respect you. They need to be obedient to you. When they're in your home, that's your home. They need to hear your voice, and they need to heed your voice. It's a biblical principle. And if I were to say, let's start somewhere, you go into your home, you love your family, but you get your children in alignment and obedient to you. How do you do that? There's a little secret in here. And if you start spending your time looking for that little secret, you'll find out how to help your children become obedient to your voice. Because we have a book that's full of that. It's filled with how to help your families become. Y'all think we can do it random? How many of you want to do it random with me just a minute? All right, let's go over to, thank you, Abby. I appreciate it. One hand went up. Let's hear it for Abby, who's cheering me on today. Let's go over to Proverbs. All right, here's how we're going to do it random. I'm just going to wait till I see Proverbs. I'm going to stop. All right, found it right there. Boom, Proverbs. How can you help your children? Okay. All right, good. Hey, great. All right, we landed in Proverbs chapter 29. Everybody open up your scriptures. Go to Proverbs 29. I want to just pull a couple of things out here. Drop some wisdom for you. This here's random wisdom. Y'all ever heard anybody say, man, I opened up my Bible this morning and it was on that one page and I read this and I was like, that fits right into my life. Y'all ever heard anybody say that? I can't believe I opened to that page. Y'all ever heard anybody or am I alone? Yeah? Have you ever done that before? You open up that book and there it is, the word that you needed was moving and active, ready to work in your heart when it got planted there. All right, Proverbs 29 says this, a man who hardens his neck after much reproof will suddenly be broken beyond remedy. Wow. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when a wicked man rules, people groan. Wow. Y'all hear that in a home? Can y'all hear that echoing from a home? Does that sound like something that gets echoed often? Yeah. Don't be passive with me, Dave. Let's just preach it out there when we get it, all right? It says, a man who loves wisdom makes his, who? A man who loves wisdom makes his father. Now, how does that young person get wisdom? From his father. That's the instruction of Yahweh right there in the home, day after day after day after day, doing its work. As we read through the Proverbs, as we read through that we need to change our stony, hard heart, because right before that it talked about this one who hardens his neck after much reproof. What's reproof? What does reproof mean? Yeah, it means correction, reproof. It means that you said something, now we're going to reproof that thing and look at it and say, I don't think that's right. We need some children to know that I don't think that's right. What you're doing is I don't think that's right. We need a husband to know, hey, I know you're doing that, but I don't think that's right. And we need a wife to say, hey, you're doing that, but I don't think that's right. Let's do a little reproof here. Let's not be scared of that process. How many of you could say, I don't want to be scared of reproof in my life? Well, good. Thank you, Bria. I got one. I just call them out as we go along here. Oh, yeah. Asher, good job, brother. Yeah. You can't be scared of reproof in your life. Reproof has to come to prove that you are the children of Yahweh. If you're scared of reproof, it means every time a critical voice or somebody that sees you doing something comes into you and says, hey, you're doing that. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's bringing our family. If you take it all defensive and you take it all personal, and you think that you're never, how many of you are perfect? 100% perfect in your home? You need some reproof. You need some more reproof. And here's the thing. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up. Yeah. So just know that when somebody comes and says to you, I have to make myself follow this principle because I hate being criticized. Because somehow in my life, I developed this attitude that if I got criticized, people didn't like me. That's a terrible way to live your life because we have to have some people being critical of us for our growth. A teacher actually has to come and say, hey, you're not doing a very good job because you're not applying yourself. And if you take it all personal, the teacher don't like me, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get it. That's fine. She may not like you, but you also may not be doing the work. So you're cutting off your own thing there. So we can open up to pride, like we can go through. I could read this morning, it'll say something about parents, and it'll say something about children. And I'm just saying, like, the word is full of it for our lives. It's there for the taking. Are we paying attention, right? And if you're gonna develop a family tradition, and you're gonna start something, like, let me give you a little example. When I was a kid, we used to go to my grandmother's house, all right? And I know there was at least 2 ways to get there without Google. Not because I knew the way, but because my mom did. And usually we were going to grandma's house with my mom. And I remember being in that car, and almost every time we'd go, at least in my mind it was every time, we would get to a certain spot in the road and all of us would demand to go the shortcut. Hey, we want to go the shortcut. Let's go the shortcut, right? And it became a thing that we went to see my grandmother Pearline. When we got in the car going from Monticello to her house, all of us well, at least me and Johnny and Brian, I guess, are the ones I remember, were in the car, because maybe that's because we were the ones going there. And somebody'd say, let's go the shortcut. And then we'd all remember, oh yeah, we need to go the shortcut. And everybody'd say, let's go the shortcut. And then we'd ask Mom, are you going the shortcut way? Because we want to go the shortcut way. I don't even know what the shortcut way was. I really don't know after talking to her. I'll have to ask her again, was that really a shortcut? But we wanted to go there. And it made us so happy when she said, all right, we're going the shortcut. I don't know why, but we were like, yes, we're going the shortcut. You know, something little like that can stay in your life 50 years, and it still brings me pleasure to think of that memory and think to myself, we went the shortcuts most times because of the pressure of me and my brothers, right? I don't know why, but it's because we were there and we were talking about something that was important to us. And even though it was not important, I'm sure my mom was like, would y'all quit talking about this stupid shortcut? It ain't even short. I don't know, maybe I'll ask her. I might be presuming something, but I think she did tell me one time that it wasn't such a shortcut. It was just a different way. But we believed it was a shortcut. And when we believed it, we wanted to go that way because we believed that that was the best way to go. All I'm saying to you is that in your family, you know, there are traditions that we're leaving out, and we throw these things into traditions are bad. That's a lie. Bad traditions are bad. Healthy traditions are sticky. They stick you with people. They stick you together. You find compadres with traditions, with good traditions. My Sabbath tradition that I've been doing so long is one of my favorite traditions of all traditions. Listen, we go to the assembly, we get some word, and then we get some food. Some of my best meals in life have been Sabbath meals. Amen. I mean, half the time, sometimes people come because of the meal afterwards. Amen. What if it's through the works or it's through Yeshua? Just come on, let's go, let's get it done. Because the word's living and active, and it's going to work in your heart. But family traditions sometimes, how many of you have a strong family tradition that you can say, man, and now some of your older ones, man, I loved it when my mom or my dad we had something. Anybody have a tradition like that you want to share? Erica? She was raising her hand. Well, y'all saw that clearly, right? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Sure. That's right. That's right. And that's why those memories are hard to separate out when you learn that, hey, we weren't even doing the right thing, but they were connected together. This thing was keeping them connected together. And sometimes it's really hard to separate that. So you have to make sure it's worth it to do that. But it's a great memory, right? Somebody give me another tradition or a memory that they had that they would do something like on an ongoing basis with their family, and this was really cool. Yep, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
On vacation and just having those memorable moments on these places as a family.
Yeah. So traveling was some good memories, right? I remember we traveled. Some of my good memories, it wasn't by tradition, but there were certain times where we would go certain places and we would do certain things and we could count on that. We knew that was going to happen. And it became sort of a tradition, right? What if we came up with a mechanism that our assembly would be in a rhythm, a cadence, if you will, a frequency of time where we're doing all the families are kind of doing this thing at this time. Like, for instance, Wednesday nights at the assembly, we decided that we're going to read through the scriptures in a year. And the charge isn't for us to read that together, but it's for every family that's connected to us on Wednesday nights at like 7 o'clock. And I'm being very random, not saying anything. Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. But at Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, everybody that we're in fellowship with here at our assembly, we all decide that we want to just start a tradition. Like we want to read through the scriptures in a year. We decide on a frequency of that or a cadence of that. And then each person or each family, whoever the leader of that is that we just decide that's what we want to do. It's a healthy family tradition. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I think fruit would come from that. I think that would be a good thing to do, right? But let's take a step back from that and say, okay, how many of you believe that getting the word spoken in your home is worth trying to build a tradition around? How many of you believe that? Okay. If you believe that, then let's not be like those who just hear it. Now, go home tonight, discuss that, and make a decision on how to start that, if it's not happening right now with your family. Decide on a frequency, which means how many times a week are we going to do it. And we have an idea at the assembly, although we haven't worked the details out. Hopefully we'll have another leaders meeting soon, and we're going to work things out. But we want to, as I shared with you at the feast, and as we've talked about, that this year's theme is, as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. And we want to come up with like 4 or 5 things that we're going to do together, that we're going to like decide to do together. And you don't have to if you don't want to, but we're going to come up with like 5 things that we can do. One would be like something like having 2 devotions with your family per week. And, maybe we would talk about the content of that or how we could get that to work out or whatever it would be. And maybe we could have people that would agree to finding a mentor, like finding a mentor and saying, that's my mentor. Right? And then somebody else would agree that this week I'm going to spend whatever quality time with my children, like a metric of about 5 things. And when you decide that you're going to do that, we would like to initiate the club of, as for me and my house, we're deciding that these 4 or 5 things are really valuable, and we're going to build a plaque somehow that says, as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. And at the bottom of that, it's going to have your family name on it. So this is like a prepper for those things. But we need some good family traditions that aren't thought about and forgotten, or I need to get into the word more, because I can tell you our families need this impact in their life. Your home needs the impact of this in your life. And if it's right, strong and rock solid, great. If it needs work, now's the time. If you're sitting here thinking to myself, man, all right, now I have things, I can think of a lot of ways this could play out. Pick one. Pick one with your family. And then draw the family in. Like Yahshua said, I'm drawing all men unto myself. Your family's like, you're a shepherd. All right? And really, so I'll say this a couple ways. I want to tell you that you're a shepherd as a parent. You're also developing to be a shepherd as a child. And your field of shepherding is a little bit different, but everybody should be growing in this idea to follow the good shepherd. And what that means is, you know what the shepherd does? The shepherd is hanging with the sheep all the time. The shepherd's hanging with the sheep all the time. So much so that it says, my sheep know my voice, and they won't listen to another one. I believe that is straight to our families. And if we know the shepherd and we're sowing abundantly, abounding in sowing in our home, and they know the shepherd, then these other voices are going to start to quiet, because the shepherds are on point and we're taking care of the sheep. And whatever that is in your family, you have to decide and resolve. But as a group, we want to see your home sowing, abundantly the word of Yahweh, sowing abundantly the blessing of Yahweh, sowing abundantly the presence of Yahweh, sowing abundantly that Yeshua is the light of the world. And that light shines on me and it shines on my children, not to a closed fault, but we have dedicated ourselves to serving the Father, and we're dedicating ourselves to serving people that when we go out, we are a light on a hill. We are standing up in our culture and we're saying no more of all this worthlessness. We want to find value. And we want to find the people that Yahweh's calling in this area to follow him. And the light bearers are the ones that go out looking. And then the anointing of Yahweh is that our families are winning. Our families are becoming victorious. I believe that. I'm praying that prayer over our assembly, that our families are winning. Our families are victorious. Our families are guarded and gated by Yeshua HaMashiach, who is the one who said, Peter, the devil has requested to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you and you will remain. You will stand. It doesn't mean that you're not going to fail. It means that in the long journey of this faith, you're going to win and you're going to find me again on the other side. Right? And we need to pray over the Deneve family, just like we have our family blessings here. We need to pray over, we need to remember our people of faith. We need to pray over all of the folks that we have around here, the Walters family. We need to pray over all of our peoples, right? We need to be speaking blessings on their life. We need to be people that are supporting and moving forward. And you need to take on this mantle in our assembly to be one who is called to pray for our people. Are you receiving that calling? When you go to pray and the frequency of your praying, when you do that, you include this household of faith that we're trying to build. Because I believe Yahweh wants to do a work here bigger than me. I really do. I believe that Yahweh wants to see our families like growing and thriving and moving in the presence of Yeshua. Are you with me? Like I feel like Yahweh wants to do work here that I can't even think about. And I'm great with that. I'm okay because it's not my vision. It's not Steve's vision. It's the Father's vision for you and your family. And what comes from that, let Yahweh do it. This is what I know. If we follow principle, I had so many more scriptures to go to, but I have taken too much time preaching. But I want to capitalize on this one. If you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly. It makes no difference what pursuit that is. If you sow abundantly, you will reap abundantly in Yeshua. You are a prized possession. At the dessert fundraiser, they have a view of the ladies that come into their clinic. And on the table, as we were sitting there, they have little pearls spread out there. And they say these ladies are a pearl of great price. And we want to see them see themselves that way. That those ladies and their children to be born are pearls of great, they're a treasure. Somebody has paid a price for them to find life, specifically life with their children. So that not one person can be touched, but because one person is born into this world, who knows the generation that follows? I know the seed is important, and I know the child in the womb is important, but Yahweh knows the end of that child through the generations. I don't know any of that. All I know is I'm called to say I love life, and we need to have life in our generations. But Yahweh knows, and here's what I'm saying, is that when I say this about sowing, I don't say that knowing I know how much a person can sow. I'm saying Yahweh knows where that seed goes. Yahweh knows how he'll use your family to help other families who may have the same need as you did. Maybe Yahweh's helping you through this process of getting together with your family to point you all in a direction of serving that's a specific place to serve. Hallelujah. I pray he does it. I pray, when we were down in Texas the last time we were down there, we got up early in the morning. Sometimes they do their men's breakfast through the week. They'll do that at like 5 a.m. And they have men that go there earlier than that. They get up at like 3, and they go get all the food from where it's supposed to be, and they bring it there. And the last time we were there was this guy named Clay that I met for the first time, and he was up on the stage, and he was talking. And when he was talking, he said, you know, I got up this morning at 3 o'clock, and I came here to serve. He said, but you know what? I thought to myself, I don't need to have my sons laying in bed when I'm serving. They need to serve too. So he said, I went over there and got my son. I said, hey, we're going to go serve the people today. That's a small statement. But let me tell you something. That's a great charge. That's a very good training for that child to know that we serve together in our home. And we don't just serve, we discomfort ourselves to serve people. We step out of line when it's inconvenient for us so that we can see that others can find refreshing in their life. That's the best of who we are. And if that's the best of who we are, then that's who we need to be. We need the people that can be inconvenienced so that we can serve the people. And in your home, you need to disrupt some of this other stuff that's going on and find a common place to serve. Hallelujah. Yeah, we're those people. Yahweh has blessed you with capacity beyond what you think you have. And I just want to share with you that when I see this word, it says you can sow abundantly and you can reap abundantly. Let's move it. Let's sow abundantly so we can reap abundantly. Let's see what Yahweh can do if we fill our space with his presence. We have to do a few little valuable things, but I loved like that image is like Clay walking through his house. And he says, hey, son, let's go. We got to serve the people today. You're going with me. And the son says, okay. Or maybe he said, I don't think so. And his dad said, let's go. I think so. You're still living in my house. It's okay. Some come easy, some come hard. Don't make a difference. Just do what you got to do. But that heritage comes down. If that son's giving you trouble, don't just throw up your hands. You pray, Father, today he's mad at me, but he's going to go serve with me. Father, change his heart. Father, help me to prepare myself so that I can help him change his heart, change who he is, change the way that he sees things. Right now, he sees too much influence from this world over here. And I feel that pressure because I've seen too much influence in the world and been lost in it when I was young. And I have a heart that wants to see people see the right thing about that and then speak life into that space. We have capacity way beyond what we think we do. We definitely do. The word tells me that, it declares it out. My people perish because of lack of knowledge, because of lack of vision, right? And if you want to get the vision from the Father, then get in the presence of the Father and desire that with so much of your insides. It's more than a message. It's more than a message. It's more than a message about family tradition than it is about being inspired with a vision. Where is my time best spent? Where is my prayers best spent? Where is the focus of my attention? Where is the place that I actually am? And what am I doing in that space to see that Yahweh's presence invades there too? Man, Yahweh is so good, and I believe that Yahweh's doing a work. And today, we got more people probably listening online than we do have here. I couldn't be more excited today about our congregation and who we are and who you are and what we're doing together, because it's moving in maybe little ways now, but Yahweh is opening this door for us to serve, to move, to breathe, to be the people we were called to be. And I don't want us to do that by one person. I want you all to join in for that. I want you to start thinking about whose family do I need to be praying for today? You know, sometimes when I come into the congregation, I imagine where the Deneves sit, and I imagine where the Walters sit, and where Chris sits, and where Abby sits, and where some of the other ones here, they're sitting. I walk to those chairs, and I just pray that Yahweh just bless their family. And I try to do that more and more. I don't always think of it. I fail like everybody else to go through and follow through, but there are times when I just walk through and I'm thinking to myself, man, I miss seeing this person. Yahweh just bless them. And I don't say that to be saying I pray a lot or whatever. It's not like that. What I'm saying is that remember your people. Remember the saints. Remember that people are struggling. Remember that we are struggling ourselves, but our struggle ourselves, we can't be so selfish that we can't remember everybody else that's struggling around us. Sometimes when we forget about our struggles and we go to pursue help for other people's struggles, ours get solved. I've seen that happen in my life so many times. Are you with me? Can anybody else testify to that? Like when the focus became off of themselves, actually good things happen with them around other people? Yes? Yeah, we can't be that way. We have to be putting blessings. Blessing on blessing, okay? Last thing I'm going to tell you, I think, unless something else comes to mind. Strength brings strength. Even when you think you're weak, I want you to stop it right there. The next time you think of yourself as a victim, the next time you think of yourself, I'm just not strong, the next time you think to yourself, I just can't overcome this. The next time you think to yourself, I can't quit speaking that. The next time you think that, I want you to know, I want you to think, hopefully, strength brings strength. Go to the Father who is the ultimate stronghold of all of who we are. And you tell him, I'm not weak. You made me strong. I'm not going to sit here and think like this. I'm no victim. I'm your child. I'm not a person that's going to stop at the temptation. Yeah, it's bringing me down, but you are my strength. You're my guide. I need your presence to be right here with me. Strength builds strength. The strong become stronger. And when you think that you're not doing well, you're beating yourself up. And I'm going to tell you something. Okay, beat yourself up. Fine. But don't forget the value that Yahweh sees in your life. Sometimes I need to talk to myself strongly about what I need to be doing, but I'm tired of beating myself up that I'm never going to make it happen. I'm surely not going to make it happen, but he is. He's strong, and he's going to bring strength in me, and he's going to make me stronger, and he's going to build me up, right? And here's what I'm going to say about all of that. I can tell you that when you're sitting here, think about this. In the presence of the assembly, in the presence of our friends and our family, in the presence of the people around that we like and respect and we love, temptation is solved in this room. I may be tempted to yell at my wife, but I don't do it here because I'll look too bad in front of you, and you'll see some of who I am a little bit more than I want you to see who I am. And I may be struggling with this sin over here when I'm over here and I'm disconnected from all of you, and my back's like this. Maybe my sin, I can see it and it pulls on me. It kind of yanks on me a little bit more because I'm disconnected, but I would never do that same thing right here in front of you. So there's a value to being in the presence of the people, because we can come on Sabbath and sometimes it's like, I don't have to think all that stuff I've been thinking. Because here we have a measure of self-control that's a little bit more than our normal day-to-day life. Would you agree? Yes? Okay, so invite some people in to that time where you're not doing so well. Because strength builds strength. A strong person makes you stronger. And together we may both be struggling with the same thing. But I have a word for you and you can have a word for me. If we'll connect up. That's called accountability. That needs to increase because accountability is strong. It brings more strength. We're not moving from weakness to weakness. That's what the world does. We move from strength to strength. Is there a scripture, Steve, that says something specifically about that? Strength to strength? Yes. I don't have it right now, but I'm saying strength to strength. Yahweh's doing a work. Don't miss it. Yahweh wants to do a work in your family. And the best of us will make family traditions that are very healthy. And they glorify the Father. A family tradition around who we're going to serve. A family tradition about how we're going to receive the word. A family tradition about how we're going to hang out and spend time together. Those family traditions can be some of the best things for your kids. Think about it. The traditions of men, let them fleet away. But the good, healthy traditions that we can have in family, those are some of the things that we look back on and we actually have this sacred spot for the people around us that are closest to us. I'll never forget my grandfather putting his hand on my head after I just drank a whole bunch of, I don't know if it's lighter fluid or something like that for cleaning clothes. because my brothers used to put it in Coke bottles and then dab their brushes in it to clean their little brushes with the oil paints, I took a big old slug of that, blunk, 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 and I threw it down. Of course, I came in. He said, "What's wrong with you, son?" Somebody else was like, "I don't know, he's going to die, la, 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 la." He drank all this fluid, right? My grandfather put his hand on my head and he said, "Yahweh, don't let anything bad happen to this boy for drinking that." I'm rebuking all that in. He's healed, he's fine. When he took his hand off of my head, I was like, all right. I just went back and started playing again. There was another time when I got into my grandfather's pill box. And I took some pills. All they saw was like pills laying open. And my grandfather had some real critical problems in his life. So who knows what kind of vitamins I took. Right? But they saw me. I'm sitting there. I got the pills open. And I got like little dust on my mouth, right? You know what my papa did? He said, "Hey, go get me some eggs." He got a dozen eggs, took me out on the back porch. He opened up my mouth, he opened up the egg one by one. He let an egg go down, let another egg go down, let another egg go down, let another egg go down, thinking I would throw up. And then he looked at me and he said, "Well, he's not throwing up." He put his hand on my head again and he said, "Yahweh, don't let anything happen to this child. This child is your child. Save him, heal him, hold him." And I'm going to tell you something. That's not a tradition, but I have thought about those prayers more in my life to give me like a solid footing in my faith to know that my grandfather, when he put his hand on my head, he never doubted what Yahweh would do in my life. I've doubted what I would do, and I've doubted what he would do. But my grandfather never doubted what Yahweh would do. To me, that's a family tradition that I carry with me, and I love my grandfather more because of his faithfulness in prayer. He had a family tradition in his house because we caught him in prayer. We caught him. We went home from the park, and he was there in the living room praying to Yahweh. Those kind of traditions stick. Those actions stick. Yahweh is good. And I know that Yahweh wants to bless each family that's represented today. And here's I'm saying, Yahweh bless you. Yahweh bless you to bless your families. Hallelujah.
So 3 times I heard the theme of 7. Today's Sabbath is the 7th day. And then, we're 7 days from in our counter to Shavuot. But I couldn't help but hear when Pastor Dwayne said how he would hear that we have always done it that way 7 times, right? Or 7 words. And I thought 7, we have always done it that way. It's the same mindset that leaders face when we're trying to make change in anything. And the same way we struggle making changes in our organizations, a lot of times we struggle making change. Even here this morning when I saw the chairs different, I was like, man, they didn't change the chairs around. And I felt lost because, my spot was gone. And it just ties really into healthy, family traditions. What are some of the healthy traditions? I know he said you sow sparingly, you reap sparingly, but sow bountifully, you reap bountifully. And as I was thinking about, we have always done it that way. This morning in the men's prayer breakfast, when Dwayne shared that with us, he said, you know what? The first relationship that Adam had was not his spouse. He asked us, and we all thought about it. He said, our first relationship is with Yahweh. And when he shared that, it really was like the foundation of every tradition or every relationship we could have. I kept thinking about how, I believe it was Yeshua who was having this conversation. He said, how can you love Yahweh who you don't see and claim to love your brothers that you do see? And I know a lot of times in our relationship, we respond a certain way because we've always done it that way, but it's done unplugged from having that relationship with Yahweh. And just the other day, my daughter was talking to me saying, hey, we don't spend as much time as we used to. And she started reminding me of, when we're in the military, when I was in the military, Dwayne was talking about families being a blessing. And when I first joined the Army, I didn't have any kids. And I remember I joined the Army, had no clue I was going to do 30 years. But when she reminded me about how all of the deployments that I've been gone, it's like it reminds you of how it's so easy to fall into that trap where, you're just going with the things of life. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen people who, they get to a point in their life and we've neglected the things that matter. But I'll also share just understanding that the scripture is where the answer is. And I wrote down how he said the source of integrity is the word. So just to capture the three things to highlight: sow sparingly, reap sparingly, but you sow bountifully, you reap bountifully. And the only way we could do that is if we remember the first relationship, which is Yahweh, and that we stay in the word so that we realize that the two most important things that Yahweh have blessed us with is Yeshua and each other, because of the value and the vision of knowing that we've been placed here on earth to invest in each other. So let's give our Father another round of applause for just reminding us of why we're here. And I love what he said: strength brings strength. Strength brings strength. So, Psalms 84:7. Strength brings strength. So again, let's give our Father another round of applause, hands of worship, and even with our voice. So I did look in the back and I didn't see any specials. Do we have any specials today? No? All right. So we're going to go ahead and ask our brother Steve Deneve if he will bless us and close us out with the Shema.
The Shema. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one. You shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign upon your arm, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes. You shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. The Ten Commandments. And Elohim spoke all these words: I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Never have any other mighty ones before me. Never make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. Never bow down to them or worship them. For I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Never misuse the name of Yahweh your Elohim, for Yahweh will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your Elohim. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigners residing in your towns. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. Never murder, never commit adultery, never steal, never give false testimony against your neighbor. Never covet your neighbor's house, never covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This is the word of Yahweh.
like, where are you? Are you? Okay. We're gonna start again.
That is all me. I'm so sorry, Abby.
I love the Sabbath day. I love the peace I feel. I love the Sabbath day and all that it reveals. The caring of our Father to give us a day of rest. His presence right here with us, making sure we're really blessed. I love the Sabbath day, the way it makes me feel. I love the Sabbath day, its blessings are so real. Of all the week, the brightest, of all the week, the best. Praise Yahweh for the Sabbath day, sweet Sabbath day of rest. I love the Sabbath day. I love the rest it brings. I love the Sabbath day when all creation sings. A day of sweet remembrance, a day of peace and rest. Praise Yahweh for the Sabbath day, sweet Sabbath day of rest. I love the Sabbath day. I love the peace I feel. I love the Sabbath day and all that it reveals. The caring of our Father to give us a day of rest. His presence right here with us, making sure we're really blessed.
Alice, you want to end us with prayer today?
Dear Father, you say wherever two or more are gathered in your name, that you'd be in the midst. And we just ask you in the name of Yeshua, your son, that you be with everybody in this congregation. We know that as we go through this life that there's certain struggles and challenges that we all face. Father, we just ask that you guard us, keep us, and keep the Wilson family blessing everybody that's part of this ministry that may go forward in Yeshua's name.